The yeas are 52, the nays are 47.
U.S. President Donald Trump lashed out at members of his own party after a rare Senate vote to limit his military powers. The backlash follows the U.S. military operation that captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro without prior notice to Congress. Trump accused Republican senators of stupidity for siding with Democrats to advance legislation restricting future military action. In a post on Truth Social, the president said Republicans should be ashamed for weakening America's ability to defend itself. 5 GOP senators, Rand Paul of Kentucky, Susan Collins of Maine, Todd Young of Indiana, Josh Hawley of Missouri, and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, joined with all Senate Democrats to support the resolution, which was introduced by Virginia Democrat Tim Kaine. The measure would block further U.S. hostilities in Venezuela without explicit authorization from Congress. The Republican-controlled Senate voted 52 to 47 to advance the legislation, with a final vote expected next week. The vote came just days after Trump ordered what the White House described as a successful mission to capture Maduro. Lawmakers say Congress was not informed ahead of the operation, raising concerns about executive overreach. While many Republicans initially backed Trump's aggressive stance, this Senate vote revealed growing unease. Some GOP lawmakers now fear that the president is steering the U.S. toward deeper foreign military entanglements. The administration has also floated the possibility of operations involving Colombia, Cuba, and even Greenland.
It goes on and on. Folks all over the country are working nonstop just to make ends meet. So you would think that President Trump would be focused on keeping his campaign promise to bring down prices. He said he was going to do that on day one of his administration. But that's not what he's doing. He's doing the opposite. He and Republicans right here in the Senate and in Congress are actually driving up costs, including health care costs across the country. Members of Congress on the Republican side voted against extending tax credits to help middle-class Americans afford their health care. In fact, those tax credits expired at midnight on December 31st, and 20 million Americans are seeing their health care costs spike. President Trump is also breaking another promise. He's breaking his promise to keep America from being dragged into costly foreign conflicts. He's not focused on nation building here at home. He is focused on nation building overseas. Exactly what he said he did not want to do. First of all, he bailed out Argentina. And now he says he is running Venezuela. He says he's in charge of Venezuela. In fact, just this morning, President Trump's Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright, said the United States would be overseeing the sale of Venezuela's oil production indefinitely. Here's a Washington Post story: U.S. to control Venezuela oil sales indefinitely, Energy Secretary says. Mr. President, that's what this has been about from the beginning. Grabbing and controlling Venezuela's oil for the benefit of Trump's billionaire buddies. That's why Wall Street appears to be drooling at the prospect of making more money in Venezuela. So I think we should start by pointing out the fact that the Trump administration has been engaged in a long campaign of deception and lies to the American people about the reasons for this adventure in Venezuela. They lied to the American people when they said this was all about stopping the flow of drugs in the United States. We all support that goal, but that's not what this has been about. If this was about stopping the flow of drugs into our country, the Trump administration would not have proposed big budget cuts to the Drug Enforcement Administration. They would not have shuttered the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force. They shut it down. President Trump talks about deaths caused by fentanyl in the United States. He is absolutely right about that. What he does not tell the American people is that the fentanyl killing Americans is not originating or even transiting through Venezuela. And of course, if President Trump was serious about fighting drugs, he would not, just as he did weeks ago, have pardoned the former Honduran president and notorious convicted drug kingpin Juan Orlando Hernandez. And I should say, even closer to home, in December, we learned that President Trump also pardoned a Baltimore City drug kingpin whom the DEA called, quote, one of the largest cocaine and heroin dealers to be arrested by the DEA in recent history, unquote. That sends a signal to everybody that Donald Trump is willing to pardon people who've been engaged in poisoning our people. So this has not been about stopping drugs for Donald Trump. And it certainly wasn't about removing an illegitimate leader. And Maduro is an illegitimate leader, but Donald Trump cozies up to dictators all over the world. And of course, yesterday was the 5th anniversary of Donald Trump's efforts to overturn a free and fair election right here in the United States. So the president himself has made clear that this is all about the oil. When he announced the fact that the United States had seized Maduro, he said, and I quote, "We're going to get back our oil, and we need total access to the oil and to other things in their country," unquote, meaning other natural resources in Venezuela. And he uttered the word oil 19 times when he announced the seizure of Maduro. Indeed, while President Trump did not consult or notify Congress about his plans, as is required, he revealed that, quote, the oil companies were absolutely aware that we were thinking about doing something, unquote. So, colleagues, Donald Trump wants to grab the oil, and he wants to do it to help his billionaire buddies. Case in point is Paul Singer. He is the billionaire head of Elliott Investment Management and a Trump mega donor. He recently acquired Citgo, the US-based subsidiary of Venezuela's state-run oil company, in November 2025, so just a few months ago. And he acquired it for approximately half the company's estimated value. Now, according to the Wall Street Journal, in an article on January 5th, I'm quoting, "Now Elliott appears poised to reap the rewards of owning Venezuela's most valuable foreign oil asset. The regime change could lead to an increase in Venezuelan oil production, which would likely provide cheap feedstock to Citgo's Gulf Coast refineries and increase the company's value," analysts and refining experts said, unquote. So a huge win for one of President Trump's biggest donors. Now, Mr. President, I think we all need to acknowledge and salute our troops who took part in this operation. They performed magnificently, flawlessly, bravely. And I want to thank them on behalf of my fellow Marylanders. But, Mr. President, it's also outrageous that President Trump would put the lives of American servicemen and women at risk to grab Venezuela's oil to enrich his friends on Wall Street. At least 6 of our American servicemen and women were wounded. Approximately 80 Venezuelans were killed in this operation, including civilians, not to mention the over 100 people who were on those boats over the last couple months who have been killed.